Hello friends, it's Xeon. We're going to dive into puzzles finally after the last two videos. Let's go. In the Verge3D App Manager, we can just take a look at how things are going and let's see what we need to fix before we get going too much further. It seems we have a couple issues. The first one is camera needs to be in the right spot. The menu system, for whatever reason, is not locking into that upper right hand corner that we are looking for, and we can see our HDR lighting background environment texture thing. So we need to fix some things in Blender. So we'll hop back over into Blender and let's take care of the menu system first. Select the spacer and you're going to be sure you're in the object properties, slide down to Verge3D settings, and you'll see the fit to camera edge, and here you're going to want to be sure that is set to right and vertical set to top, and that'll lock it into the right spot. The next part was we needed a sort of a background, so I'm just going to select that as my starting point. I'm going to go ahead and just add a sphere. You can add whatever kind of environment background you like, meshes, as far as some people I've heard even use the one that comes with the scooter demo, and it'll work really well. There's nothing wrong with it. But for simplicity's sake, we are just going to create a mesh UV sphere, and then we're going to scale it up a little bit. That's plenty big, I think. And the problem here is you can see as everything's red, so that means the vertices, or not the vertices, the faces were flipped, the normals. So I'm going to go into edit mode, select all the faces, just in case I somehow misselect one, mesh, normals, flip, and there. So that's good. Now it needs a texture, or at least a color. So let's give it one. And we're going to call this environment. Matte. And while I'm here, instead of calling it sphere, we'll just call it environment sphere, for lack of anything more creative. And we're going to just give it some color. Let's give it a light blue tint, something like that. You guys can get crazy with the backgrounds, just to give you an idea of how to do it. And let's re-export this. I think I took care of everything that we needed inside Blender, at least. Let's go ahead and export that. Oh, that turned out really blue. Let me see what it looks like here. Let me calm that blue down a little bit. Yeah, that's better. File, export, GLTF, export. Okay, so now hopping back into here, refresh the page. Now we at least have a background. Oh, I didn't smooth that sphere. I should have smoothed it. While I'm here, go ahead and select our environment sphere, right click, shade auto smooth, file, export. Go back. That should smooth it out. It looks nice. Okay, so great. Now we have our lovely part. We have our menu locked to the upper right hand corner, and now we need to at least tame the camera a little bit and make sure that when it first loads, we see the part where we want it. So the first thing we're going to do is hop over, and I think the best thing would be to let's do the HTML portion of it. Let's adjust the index, or not the index, but in this case the X3L parametric inputs.html. And you can do that in your favorite text editor. You can use something like Visual Studio Code, which is I use, and have that mouse problem again. Force quit, don't want that. Okay, so you'll recognize all this as your typical stuff. Many of these things can now be changed inside Verge3D from within the settings panels now, but I've already gone ahead and made some adjustments to these areas. The new things that you're going to want for the HTML inputs that we're going to do is this piece. And I'm just going to uncomment it because I had already done it, and you really don't want to see me have to type all this stuff. So I have a div class, and I have that set up as X3L form group. I'll show you how that's accessed or set up. There's some CSS that's going to come in that I will do via puzzles, and you can see how that's done. But anyway, these labels are simple. Label for length equals 20. That's the text that you're going to see, and then the number of the ID, which is length, the name of the values, maximum length of the inputs, all those kind of things. So you save this. Let's just make sure it saves. And then we reload our screen over here. And we get this. So that's all that HTML is doing, is creating this lovely stuff on the left. You have drop down buttons, you have all that fun stuff. But the real trick that we want to do is get the camera where it looks good, but also get these sliders working, and then updating these fields. Or if you enter something in the field and press submit, it adjusts the part and adjusts the slider. So that's the trick. So let's move on to that. Inside the puzzles, the first thing I like to always do is just set up a comment, two actually, what version of V3D I'm using. In this case, I'm going to put 4.0. And I will also add another comment, what Blender version I was using. And these things, if you ever have to come back to a project that's really old, it really helps. Blender 3.6.5. That way I can always make sure the shaders aren't going to get messed up by upgrading, and morph targets don't get messed up by upgrading. There's a lot of little things that can break or go wrong, or puzzles that get updated that don't work anymore, deprecated, you name it. So always a good idea to have a reference, not for necessarily today, but for 6 months from now, a year from now, when you got to come back and do an update. So just part of my habits. The next thing I want to do is fix this portion, this HTML area, with some CSS we had talked about earlier. I have that off screen because this is not a CSS sort of tutorial. This is more of a just how it's done. I'm sure you guys know how to do CSS. And there are other ways. You could have included this inside the HTML file as well. But just in case someone wants to know a different way, you could do this. So I'll enable this puzzle. And all this is that X3L form group CSS. That's that style sheet. So this takes care of the formatting of this. So we can save that. And again, just kind of refresh. And now it looks like that. A little bit of spacing, a little bit of different colors. You can format that however you want. These sort of things. The critical thing, though, when you're doing this is this little goodie right here, and I've put it in the comment. The area for this div, you don't want it to accidentally be over your menu, because if you do, your sliders will not work. So we want to constrain that to about 300 pixels, and that way it's pretty much ensured that that's never going to go over that. So if you, for some reason, can slide all the other buttons, but you can't slide these top few, is probably because this width is too wide, and you can't get through the standard HTML div to get to your sliders. So that's that part. Let's go ahead and sort of begin the overall editing of this. I don't necessarily need to see this, so just because it, well, we'll just leave it up for now. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create some variables, and I don't know if I've done this so many times. Oh, it is good. It's empty. Create a variable. In this case, I'm going to call it slider objects. And slider, I didn't spell that right, so let's change the name, rename slider objects. There we go. And we're going to go ahead and slide that in there. And basically, this is just going to allow me to create a list of objects that I can just use a variable to control them instead of anything else. and you'll know why later, because basically we're going to, as we submit the data in on a button, we're going to want to adjust all these parameters at once, and this will help me do that. So let's see, objects, and then selectors, select an object, and I think I have 7, so we'll go ahead and 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then this one is going to be button slider. It doesn't really matter. Get them all in here. The fun part about puzzles, lots to do. So I think we have width, that one, and duplicate for width. There we go. All right. So the next thing, I'm just going to head and just add a note in here for those who come across this file, and I'm going to say the following sets the camera in the scene. Alright, so now I'm going to do, let's see, cameras, set active camera. In this case, my camera is called camera, nothing special there. And then we're going to do a snap. We want that to snap to, I think that's under object. So there's object, snap, snap, snap. Where's snap? I don't think it's not an animation, is it? Let's see, nope. Cameras? Okay, I must have missed it. Objects. Get snap, there it is. Wish there was an easy way to search for those things. Snap the camera, in this case our camera, to object, and we're going to snap that to the camera location base. That's our home position. We're also going to tell the camera to look at something, so we always know it's starting off at the right place. In this case, camera, look at this camera. We want it to be camera target base in 1 second. That's fine. So when we do that, we take a look at this. We're in the right zone. We're not necessarily, we're actually too far away. Let's see, is that because of the width of this thing? What is it? No, it's not that wide. It's just not far enough back. So we're going to have to adjust the, not the camera target, but the camera distance. So let's see, snap camera location base. Let's see if we go to wide, if that's going to be far enough away. Camera location length. I think it's more my camera target base. Let's turn that off for a second. Nope. I spelled length wrong. Camera target large. Yeah. Okay, so our camera targets are all out of whack. So we're going to have to change those in Blender. So the camera target, we're going to go ahead and set this back to camera location base and look at camera target. Camera cart base is fine. So then we'll just go here and realize we got to pull that camera way the heck back. So why don't we have a view like that? Camera Z angle, where am I? Oh, let's hide our environment sphere so we can see things. And there, yeah, I was really off on there. There's a location base, and that's where I should be. I don't realize how I got that far off, but I did. Okay, let's go here and just double check my everything is where, oh, this Y, that should be a 0, and that should be a 0, that should be a 0. Alright, now it makes more sense. Now I should be somewhere in this general vicinity. And okay, so the first one should be more than good enough. Camera location base. Shift S. I'm just gonna go find out why in the world that's not looking. 50 millimeters should be fine. Let's go see. Camera location base. Camera locate target base. I think it's because it's long by default. So I'm going to go back into Blender and re-export with those values set that way, and everything should be fine. Export, yeah, because what I had was I had the link set up to that, and obviously the camera can't get all that, and I need it to be all the values set to 0, and I didn't have them set to 0. So try that again. Go back. Hold this up. There we go. That's what that was. Okay, so I wasn't crazy, just forgot I had done that. Before we go too much further, let's go ahead and move over to the events that actually control the sliding of the buttons. So it is a when dragged over, and we'll get the other event, which is the drag move. So we're going to drag over the button. Let's do button slider length, and just so you can see how that's going to work, be sure to set the space option on and make sure it's set to local, just like we had in Blender as well. We'll go ahead and save that, refresh, and we should at least see that the button itself is functioning, and we can slide it right, left, and that's a good start. So what we're going to want to do is add a couple things to this. Obviously, the button has a position all the way to the left and another position all the way to the right, and we have to translate that into a length of 20 to 100. And the way we do that is through a new little thing. This is called map range. This used to be a puzzle in our puzzle library. We used to have it in here. It's no longer there. It's since 4.50, may have been preview 2 or preview 3. I can't remember where they did. They swapped that out and actually gave us a puzzle. So thank you to Softdate for that. Makes things a little easier. So we are going to go ahead and set a variable. In this case, we're going to set a length variable. So we're going to use create variables. Let's create one called length entered. I'm telling you. Alright, so set length entered. That's going to be that little piece. We're going to do a map range and stick that in there. Then we're going to say, okay, I need the position of where this little guy is. So we can do that by objects, and then we can say get position, and we'll stick that in there. And what is the position of? It's of the button slider length, and it's got to have some values. So we know that the ultimate thing we want to do is it's got to become 20 to 100, whatever it is. And these are the values that are going to go into the fields that we created over here, should say right here. So we want that the output of this number its position has to be, when it's on the left, 20, and when the output comes over to the right, it has to generate a value of 100. The problem is, or the mystery is what numbers should these be, because they're positional. So the way we find that out is we just do a little print console, and I'm going to go ahead and take this, duplicate it, and so we're going to find out what those values are. In our we're going to have to open up another window here and then open that so we can see what it is. We will need to go to the developer tools. That's why I use Chrome. And so we have some developer tools here, which we're going to get some messages as we get these out. So we're going to print this out. We're going to take a look at where this value is and then translate that over. So let's go ahead and refresh this. And we'll set this something bigger so we can actually see landscape HD. That's big enough. And we'll slide this out. And you can see our numbers in the bottom left. When I'm at 20, or all the way to the left, the value is 0.16189. That's about all the accuracy that I need. So I'm going to go back here. I'm going to say the min is 0.16189. I think that's what I said. And now we're going to go over here to the max. And that seems to be pegged out at 1860. Let's make sure I'm locked in. 1864.3, 1864.4. So 1864 is going to be good enough. 18.1864. So that's the values we're going from a positional minimum to a positional maximum, translating into the object's actual units, 20 to 100, so we can fill these fields in. And so that's going to go ahead and add some notes to this, so that if, again, someone comes in here and goes, what is he doing? Let's go ahead and do this as length slider button. Duplicate. I'm going to go here. And this gets the slider button position and remaps it to dimensional value. All right. So then I'm going to go ahead and create something for the actual morph targets. So in this case, we need, I think it's under objects. Is that where morph target is? Set morph, get morph after value. I need set morph. I need to set that morph target. Well, in this case, the base object. And the target that I'm looking for is base length. And then this little value is going to be another map range. Duplicate that. But it's not going to be this. It's going to be the length that we entered. Variables, length entered. And that's going to be slightly different because the values that we entered are always going to be 20 to 100. And then we have to change this to 0 to 1, which are the values in the shape key. So if we go back to Blender, the shape key values down here only go from 0 to 1. So that's what we're doing here, is we're translating the dimensional values into the values of the shape keys. So we'll go back. So that's where that 0 to 1 came from. We'll go ahead and add another comment in case someone goes, why did you do that? And we'll just put, wow, come on, morph the model from desired length. I guess make it even more specific. Dimensional length to to shape key. I'm not a good typer today. Shape key, what is it? 0 to 1 range. 0 to 1 range. That should be descriptive enough. Then the next thing we want to do is we're going to want to update the value inside this. Right now where it says 20, we're going to want to update that value. So let's go ahead to HTML. Let's say we're going to pick up set prop. I believe that's the one we need. Set prop. And we're going to set a value. And in this case, our ID in this one is length, I think. The element is length. So let's go ahead, and I don't like using, well, I think I'm going to use it over and over again. I'll go ahead and just get a text object. Let me have to do that repeatedly. Length. And the value is going to be length entered. Yes, duplicate. So whatever was created from length in, be based on my slider, I'm going to shove that into, which is, so sliders being, the slider values coming out from 20 to 100 based on how they slide it by position. That's going into the variable length entered. Length entered is then going to be used as the morph targeting range, converting it from 0 to 1, but that length entered value is then going to be inserted into the value of the field, or the input field. And so let's see how that works right now. Whoops. And so we're at 20, and now I slide up. That's now close to 100, so that's a rounding error. Oh, they went it to 100, just didn't push it over far enough. And down to 20. So that is working well. Great. Now, obviously, if I go in here and I try to do something like put in it to be 40, our submit button's not created yet, so it doesn't do anything. But the slider is working properly and filling out the form properly, so that's all good. So we're going to replicate this process for the remainder of the sliders. I'm going to go ahead and add another comment here so people looking at this can go, why did he do this? It might be more of an explanation. Below updates the input length HTML updates the length HTML input value for the field. Hopefully that'll be good enough explanation. Now let's go ahead, and I'm probably going to go ahead and just add the enable drop action as well, because sometimes when you use these sliders, you drag off and you can leave it in some weird states, and the only way that I found to prevent that from happening is to have a on drop state. So just as a backup, even though I couldn't get it to fail right there, I'm going to go ahead and do on drop. In this case, just in case move fails, we drop on drop will fix the value in the HTML field. And I'm just going to duplicate this thing, duplicate, put that there, and then that saves that. Now we'll probably need to do something else too at some point, which is actually submit. I can already kind of feel it. There'll be a process called submit, a procedure called submit that we'll use when we click on this, and the functions for that will also be the same as the functions. So we'll share that. So there'll be some future thing that we got to add here, but let's move on. All right, so with that one done, I'm going to go ahead and let's grab the right place. Let's do some other buttons and some other fun things. So one of the things we should probably do, and I'll turn off the camera, is when hovered, in case you're using a mouse and not using a touchscreen. So events when hovered, let's do that, and let's do a HTML styles. Let's see, where is it? Set style. I think that's it. And we're going to set this to cursor. Cursor. And we're going to set this to text. We'll throw one in there called pointer. And it's in the element body. Let's see, it should be HTML. Grab that little guy, change that to body. In here on out, duplicate, we're going to change this to default. I believe I didn't spell that correctly. Default. There we go. And we can bring our lovely camera back and we can test this again. And so now when the mouse enters our lovely button, it should turn into a... Oh, when hovered. Helps if we do, in this case, slider objects that we had. Where is, oh, it's a variable. Variables. So back here we defined slider objects. So we need to variables, slider objects. So if I land in any of the slider objects, now it will give me a cursor. Helps if I reload. There it is. And I'm out, and I'm in, so you can see that's working. And when I'm in, obviously that's not working, but it's working for all our little buttons. Now we just got to add the slide controls, right? So let's continue on, and we can start with the other slider buttons. I'm going to fast forward through this, so I won't bore you with it. But it's the same exact procedure that I've done for this length one. So let's begin. Section 4 is optional. You can skip this part. It's really the details of copying and pasting and replicating all those on dragovers. And you can see all the mistakes and things that I made along the way if that will help. But if you'd rather not, go to video number 5 and wrap it up.